Hey, what's up everyone? I recently finished the Marvels Avengers prequel novel Extinction Key. It was very well written and a great book in general, but this video won't be a review. Instead, I want to talk about some of the most interesting details I was able to find within the book that give us an idea on what's to come in the future, as well as details that give us more insight into the Marvels Avengers game universe. Before we begin, I just want to let everyone know that we will be discussing spoilers from both the novel and the main game, so if you haven't beaten the Avengers story mode yet, or if you plan on reading the Extinction Key novel yourself, save this video until you finish those. Like I said earlier, I really enjoyed the Extinction Key novel and would highly recommend it to anyone interested. If you'd like to check it out for yourself, I'll have a link for it in the description below as well. But with all that said, let's get started. For some context, the story revolves around the supervillain group called the Zodiac, who wish to use a powerful key to bring the constellations to Earth. Each member of the Zodiac possesses the powers of their respective astrological sign, and they will be the main antagonists throughout the story. In the prologue, we are introduced to a team of superheroes from around 1210 BC who originally stopped the Zodiac from taking over the Earth. The superhero group consisted of that time period's Sorcerer Supreme, Black Panther, and Fist of Khonshu, along with the Olympian god of war Ares and the Valkyrie Brunhild of Asgard. In the present day, Thor mentions that he had heard about the battle from Ares, who was boasting about fighting the stars themselves. Black Widow asks Thor why he wasn't part of the fight, and he states that he was not asked to help, otherwise he would've. Thor also mentions that he will have to ask Valkyrie about it himself when he sees her again. I don't know if we will ever see Ares or Valkyrie in the game, but this at least leaves the door open and confirms their existence in the game's universe. As far as the other three, we know the modern-day Black Panther T'Challa is pretty much a given and is already confirmed to be joining the game in the near future. The Fist of Khonshu is also a very interesting detail, since this title refers to Moon Knight. In the comics, the Egyptian god Khonshu saves the life of mercenary Mark Spector by making him his avatar on Earth, Moon Knight, the Fist of Khonshu. A recent data mine from the Twitter account Miller also revealed what seems to be a major artifact for the game, resembling something related to Khonshu. Moon Knight was a member of the West Coast Avengers for a period of time, a team that is being created during the events of this book. Throughout the story, Tony is attempting to start another Avengers team on the West Coast, and even decides to name it the West Coast Avengers, with Bruce being the first member, since Bruce wanted to live closer to his girlfriend Monica Rappaccini, since he hasn't realized her devious intentions yet. This of course leads us into the beginning of the game in San Francisco, where all of those plans are destroyed during the events of A-Day. But who knows, in the future the West Coast Avengers plan could be reinstated, with Moon Knight being added as one of its members. Lastly is of course the Sorcerer Supreme, who we all know as Doctor Strange. Even though Strange isn't in the game, he plays a major role in the novel. He's aware of how his predecessors stopped the Zodiac last time, and asks the Avengers to help him in stopping them this time. For the majority of the story, Strange teams up with Thor and Captain America as they follow clues to find the mysterious key the Zodiac are searching for. Some of the powers Strange uses are portals to transport them to various countries, astral projection, the Crimson Bands of Sidorak, and the Eye of Agamotto. Although Strange plays an important role in the story, his exit is the most interesting part due to its abruptness and mystery. To better illustrate what I mean, I'll read you the excerpt of Strange's last moments in the story, but first here's some context. During the final battle against the Zodiac, Scorpio is standing above a giant orrery, which is a mechanical model of the solar system. Scorpio has retrieved the key and is holding it pointed towards the sky, with energy being pulled from all around it. Here's the excerpt, which is from Captain America's perspective. Then the air seemed to crack in half. He looked up and saw the key shine brighter than the sun, and for a full 2 heartbeats it went brighter. But then a flash of power shot from the key into the heart of the ruined orrery, blasting into the earth itself. An instant later, Strange lit up like fireworks. He trembled and jerked like a marionette controlled by an overactive child. Flames burst from his eyes and mouth, and he gasped out an unearthly syllable. Then the sorcerer was gone, leaving only a curling wisp of smoke where he'd been standing. Scorpio was still there, still holding the key, and the constellations flowed as if the sky was made of syrup. Pretty odd, right? The only mention of Strange later is when Thor asks Cap if they've seen him. Cap replies that they haven't, and that they will pretty much just have to wait for his return. So I don't think Strange is dead, but where he is now is left a mystery. I'm sure this is teasing up an interesting story for Strange that we will see play out in the game, but I'm not too sure exactly what it will be yet. I'm honestly not very familiar with Doctor Strange stories from the comics, so if anyone thinks they have an idea of what might be getting teased here, I would love to hear it. But overall, I think Crystal Dynamics have big plans for Doctor Strange's return into the game, so I think it's only a matter of time until he's playable. I mentioned earlier that Strange used the Eye of Agamotto at one point, during which we learn a little bit more about another potential playable character, Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier. While Strange, Thor, and Cap are following clues to the key, they happen upon an important artifact that will lead them to the next clue, but it has been destroyed recently. Strange uses the Eye of Agamotto to turn back time and return the artifact to its complete state before it was destroyed. While he's doing this, Captain America is wondering how far back into the past the Eye of Agamotto can see. More importantly, could the eye see whether Bucky lived or died after falling into the ice? Steve actually asks Strange how far back the eye can see, and Strange states that it's mostly a few hours or a day at the most. Steve responds by saying that it must be able to go back further, to which Strange answers, and I quote, "There are ways, but they are not easy and far from certain." Then Strange asks Cap what he's asking specifically, and Cap says that they can just talk about it later. But of course, they never get that opportunity. So to me, this suggests that Cap hasn't seen or heard about Bucky since World War II when they both fell into the ice.
Bucky? Who the hell is Bucky?
However, Bucky has been data mined by a couple different sources that suggest there are plans for him to be a playable hero later on. The Twitter account Miller even suggests Bucky might not be that far away and could potentially be our 6th playable character. Miller also shared a data mined audio clip of someone addressing Bucky.
Welcome aboard, Barnes.
Barnes has arrived. Hello, James. James
Buchanan Barnes. Hello, Barnes, my friend.
Welcome aboard, Barnes. Barnes, good to see you. Hello, soldier.
Barnes on site. Barnes has landed.
If Cap hasn't seen Bucky since World War II, then it's possible we could see the storyline of his return play out in the game. Also in the comics, the Winter Soldier was the one who trained Natasha in the Red Room, which even sparked a relationship. Unfortunately, Black Widow was later brainwashed to forget their relationship ever existed, but depending on how Crystal Dynamics want to approach this, it could make for an interesting dynamic between Cap, Bucky, and Natasha. They even seem to tease a similar scenario in the Captain America Civil War movie, but this time only Natasha remembers.
You could at least recognize me.
So the next thing the novel sheds a bit more light on is Captain Marvel and her whereabouts. Unfortunately, the novel still doesn't confirm any specific details, but it does give us a little more insight at least. Early in the book, while having a conversation with Thor, Tony Stark mentions that S.H.I.E.L.D. has noticed an uptick of extrasolar presences in their system, which has them on edge. Tony states that he's been trying to help S.H.I.E.L.D. track down Captain Marvel, but they've had no luck. However, Thor replies that his path crossed with Carol's while he was in space recently. Thor was apparently helping Odin with a separate conflict, but we don't learn the details of that fight, only that Thor thinks it will not concern Earth, and that Thor beat the crap out of them. However, Thor states that Carol has been battling off-planet, and that her fight may continue for some time. She also asks Thor for a favor. When Stark asks what that favor was, here is Thor's response from the book. "To return here," Thor said, "to protect the people of Earth. In her travels, the captain encountered many things, dangerous things. She wanted to make certain her home planet was as well defended as possible. I agreed out of respect for her warrior's intuition." Tony then asks, "So that's why you're back?" Thor shrugged his massive shoulders. "In truth, she only asked that I indulge my heart's desire. I have been torn, Stark, since my brother's crimes brought us all together. My duty as a son of Asgard is to my home and to my father, her king, yet my heart lies here, on this planet with these mortals." So it's a little murky as to how Thor and Captain Marvel's conversation specifically went down, but it does sound brief, and it sounds as though Captain Marvel is dealing with a pretty big cosmic fight. I don't know specifically what that battle is yet, but I do have a guess, and it involves heavy spoilers from the game's campaign. My Ending Explained video goes in much greater detail, but the Kree sentry from the end of the game and the pod it fires off in the mid-credit scene seem to suggest that we will see the alien race of the Kree sometime soon. When defeated in the comics, the Kree Sentry sent a message to its Kree leaders, informing them of its defeat, so this could be what the Kree Sentry is doing in the game. So my guess is that Captain Marvel is caught in the middle of the Kree-Skrull War, something that's occurred in the comics as well as in the Captain Marvel movie. The original Mar-Vell also plays a big role in the Kree-Skrull War, and Mar-Vell was data mined to be in the game a couple months back, so we could see both of them enter the game sometime soon. Even if the Skrulls aren't involved, at the very least, I think the Kree race is likely to appear as an antagonist. with the Kree Sentry potentially sending a message to the Kree leaders of its defeat and an Inhuman breakout, this could lead the Kree to send warriors to Earth, namely Ronan the Accuser, which is what happens in the comics. This could also cause Captain Marvel to return and defend Earth. But that's just my personal speculation, and I would encourage you to check out my Ending Explained video if you'd like more details on the Kree, because I include many more details there. But in general, we've seen a ton of Captain Marvel references in the game already, and now with the novel further hinting at her whereabouts, I think it's safe to say that Crystal Dynamics has big plans for Captain Marvel's introduction into the game, so I would expect a big story arc to accompany her release. I should also take a step back and acknowledge that Loki reference Thor made. In both the comics and the movies, Loki was the villain that caused the Avengers to form, so it's nice to see that this is still canon. We don't really get any other Loki references in the novel, besides Thor mentioning a time when he fought the Jotuns, who are the frost giants of Jotunheim, whose king, Laufey, is Loki's true father. So those could just be fun references to the comics, or maybe we'll see frost giants in the future too. I think we'll definitely see Loki one day though, since he is heavily teased during Thor's iconic mission.
Brother.
But I think Loki will be a topic for a different day, so let's talk about another villain's backstory. In the novel, Abomination's backstory has changed quite a bit to fit this story. Here, Emil Blonsky is a security guard for AIM who almost gets killed when members of the Zodiac attempt to steal Terrigen crystals from this facility. Blonsky is saved by the Hulk, but he doesn't like feeling outmatched against superpowered beings. Monica notices Blonsky's desire to be stronger, so she secretly asks him if he would be willing to undergo some gamma experimentation, to which he agrees. There's more to it beyond that, but essentially, Monica Rappaccini is responsible for Abomination's creation in this universe, which I found interesting. The novel also adds some insight into why Abomination is bigger than the Hulk. Later in the story, the Zodiac capture Abomination after his first transformation, and he's not very large yet. Basically, the Zodiac use Abomination to unwillingly absorb energy from the key so it doesn't overload. After the Zodiac are defeated and Abomination escapes, Bruce Banner suggests that Abomination is so large because of all the energy he absorbed while being held captive by the Zodiac. So yeah, fun fact there. We also get a couple name drops for other Marvel Universe characters, but not much more beyond that. We get Jericho Drumm, aka Dr. Voodoo, who fights alongside the Avengers and Strange outside of the Sanctum Sanctorum to protect an artifact. Unfortunately, Dr. Voodoo is injured during this fight and sits the rest of the story out. Also inside the Sanctum is Wong, who makes a minor appearance. Earlier in the story, there was also a reference to General Thunderbolt Ross, who we never interact with in the novel, but there have been data mines suggesting Red Hulk in the game, so he might make an appearance down the road. Wilson Fisk is also mentioned in passing as someone an artifact dealer may have had dealings with in the past. We don't get anything beyond that, but I'd love to see Wilson Fisk enter the game somehow. Lastly, Heimdall is often mentioned throughout the story whenever Thor needs the Bifrost, something that occurs in the game as well. With mentions of Loki, Heimdall, Valkyrie, and Odin, hopefully this is setting up the ability to visit Asgard as a region one day. But those were all the biggest references I could find with the Extinction Key novel. I really went over things pretty broadly, so if you're still curious about reading the book yourself, I definitely recommend it because I think there is still a lot in it that we didn't discuss today. We also have plenty more to talk about with Avengers coming up, as more content is planned to release soon, most notably the Kate Bishop DLC later this October. I'm sure another War Table is on the horizon as well, so stay tuned. As far as this channel, we'll of course still be discussing Avengers regularly, but I think I'll also dabble in some other content as well. Since it's almost Halloween, I think it's a good time to finally continue my Silent Hills PT Unsolved Mysteries series, investigating all the spooky details left unanswered. I also plan on starting a Marvel Games retrospective series where I go over some of the best and worst Marvel games throughout the years, starting with Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1. I think that could be a lot of fun to do, and if that's a series you all would like to see more of, I'm open to suggestions for old Marvel games you would like to see discussed. But in the meantime, if you're looking for more Marvel's Avengers content, I also run a podcast focused on the Avengers game, the links to which are in the description below, and if you're wanting to stay more up to date on the game's reveals and or find people to play with online, you can join us on Discord, the link is also in the description below. But I think that's all for today, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.